As I sat there shaking in the driver's seat of my car, I belatedly remembered the sip of wine I'd had earlier. Then again, even without alcohol in my system, I was still in no mental state to be driving a vehicle. I almost said to be a driving vehicle. I contemplated my options. All the while, scattered memories kept flashing through my mind. The dripping sound. The cold sensation that brushed against my calf. The banging against the window. I clutched at my hair, fighting the urge to run away somewhere, anywhere. It was a miracle I'd managed to get myself dressed at all. Just then, something cold dripped onto my chest. Startled, I looked down and realized my still wet hair was dripping with water. I knew it wasn't healthy to be running around outside without drying off, but I had no intention of going back to that apartment. Instead, I grabbed my phone and dialed my sister. It rang 3 times. The automated voicemail message played. Crushed, I hung up. But then I remembered the comment Hisamatsu-san had made earlier. Well, could you at least save my number in your phone, then? I opened my address book and located the entry I'd made for Hisamatsu Daigo just last night. But was I really going to call him over this? After all, we'd only just met yesterday. We're partners in this investigation, aren't we? Unfortunately, my only option was to presume on his kindness. I can't believe I'm actually about to run crying to some college kid. Water dripped from my hair onto the phone's display. Reluctantly, I forced myself to press the call button. Then I slowly raised the phone to my ear. It rang once, twice, 3 times, 4. Then... Hello? His voice sounded a bit different over the phone. Still, it was definitely him, at least. This is... Yuki. There was a pause. Almost as though I'd caught him off guard. Yuki-san? I'm in the parking lot, in my car. Please help me. On the other end of the line, I could hear loud footsteps, then the sound of a door opening. He had yet to say a word in response. But before I heard the door shut behind him, I heard the thunder of his footsteps on the stairs, and knew he had already left his apartment. Down 1 flight to the 2nd floor landing, then down another to the 1st floor. I could tell just from the sound. The sound of footsteps intensified, and less than a minute later, Hisamatsu-san was peering in through my windshield, slightly out of breath. Once he confirmed I was in the car, he opened the driver's side door and crouched down to my eye level. Hey, you okay? The instant I saw him, I felt my throat get tight. There was a sound in the bathroom. I knew I needed to explain, but somehow I just couldn't. My nose stung, and tears rolled down my cheeks. Wanna come back to my place? I got a towel. As I sobbed, Hisamatsu-san quietly held out his hand. He seems to be very nice. I hope he doesn't turn out to be, you know, like a bad guy or something. I'd actually be pretty devastated if Daigo turned out to be a bad dude. Because overall, he's been pretty nice to us this whole time. Back in 301, the first thing Hisamatsu-san did was help me dry my hair. You can't just go outside sopping wet. You'll freeze to death or something. Good grief. Once he was done drying me off, Hisamatsu-san poured me another steaming hot cup of coffee. Maybe he was the type who liked to fuss over people. I drained my mug and felt myself calm down a bit. Then Hisamatsu-san sat down across the coffee table from me, just like last time. Now that I finally had enough composure to get a proper look at my surroundings, I realized I was sitting in a combination living/dining room. Shag carpet, a coffee table, an HD TV, a DVD player, some game consoles, a small fridge. Hey Daigo, you got games on your phone? It was a rather modestly furnished dwelling. Feeling a bit better now? No! Yeah, thanks. God, how embarrassing. Not once in my life had I ever practically thrown myself into a man's arms like this. But this is an emergency, of course. That's all. So, what happened? The next thing I knew, Hisamatsu-san was sitting right next to me. Sometimes I couldn't quite get a read on his actions. Obviously, I didn't expect to read his mind or anything, but he was a little more unpredictable than the average person. Apparently, he really wanted to know what I'd been through in there. I took a deep breath and explained everything. So there were 2 weird sounds this time. This wet splat thing is new, huh? For God's sakes, no more fun surprises. I feel ya. So, what kind of sound was it? I forced myself to revisit the memory. It had been a fairly light sound. Light enough to mistake it for dripping water, anyway. It sounded like something hitting the floor. Not like a metallic sound, but something soft and wet and... Oh, God. What? It hit me. The thing that touched my leg. It was cold, but kind of clammy, too. Like skin. Like a hand? I'm not sure. It only barely brushed me, and I was just so scared. What about the banging on the window? Was it the same as yesterday? I nodded without hesitation. The pounding had been forceful enough to rattle the glass. That much was identical to what I'd experienced yesterday. I watched as Hisamatsu-san sank into thought. Just then, my cell phone started to ring. It was my sister. Hello? Hey, sis. Sorry I missed your call. What's up? Oh, wait. Where are you right now? Huh? I'm at home. The lie left my lips before I could stop it. I couldn't exactly tell her I was hanging out alone at night in the apartment of some neighbor guy I'd only just met yesterday. Really? Well, okay then. Is something the matter? I think you're safe where you are, but something tells me there's danger close by. Just a gut feeling I have. Oh yeah, she's got like the little premonitional feelings or whatever. As usual, my sister's intuition was razor sharp. All my life, I'd never been able to hide anything from her. Oh, that reminds me. You know Chief Editor Saito? The guy from the second editorial board? Yeah, I had a meeting with him about the site update recently. That said, I didn't think she'd ever met him directly, considering she was assigned to the first editorial board. I wasn't close with him myself. We'd only spoken a few times to review the contents of each update. The funeral I went to today? It was his. What? Was he sick? As far as I knew, he was an incredibly fit and healthy guy. The last person I'd expect to drop dead overnight. It was suicide. So yeah, I might not have time to deal with whatever issue you're having. Damn! Excuse me? What's that supposed to mean? I mean, they're gonna make me cover for the second board. And you only ever call me this late at night when you're up to no good. She'd seen right through me. Okay then. Can you put me in touch with someone from the third editorial board? That's the one that handles all the gossip and paranormal stuff, right? Shoko fell silent. After a solid 30 seconds of dead air, I heard a frustrated sigh. Wait, what? Tips. Press released? Wait, what? Huh? Game, I did not catch that. What press release? What is release? Huh? I don't have that option on my keyboard. What is the release button? Sis, I already told you. The third board went independent. Changed their name to Misty Publishing and everything. Wait, really? Remember when we overhauled the site design and I told you we wouldn't need that section anymore? I even had Koichi give you all the details. Watabe Koichi was Shoko's boyfriend, and a former editor on the third board. Did he get recruited to this Misty Publishing, then? Evidently, my age was taking its toll on my memory. Aren't you, like, 30? Relax. No, that's right. I had been buried under a crushing workload at the time of the site overhaul. That would explain it. Not that it mattered, ultimately. I'll have Koichi call you sometime tomorrow. Does that work for you? She sounded more than a little annoyed about this. Well, thanks for the concern, Shoko, dearest sister of mine. Did you know I almost died? Thanks. Glad you're so concerned for my well-being. Maybe she'd been forced to work overtime to cover the second board. That would be great, if possible. Consider it done. Look, are you sure you're alright? I thought you didn't care, Shoko. Why do you ask? You didn't even ask me how Chief Saito died. How did he die then? I thought she said suicide. I mean, does it really matter the how is the fact that it happened? No one knows for sure. The cops have basically thrown in the towel. You didn't even ask me how— I told you he died by suicide, but you didn't even ask me how he died. Oh, okay, well, how did he die then? Actually, no one knows. Then what was the point of this question? I wished I'd never asked. It must have been a terribly gruesome death. And considering what I was forced to endure lately, I wasn't sure I could handle any more discussion on the topic. Well, let Koichi know I'm looking forward to hearing from him, okay? I'll be waiting. Okay, will do. Bye. I ended the call and found Hisamatsu-san staring at me intently. What? Is your sister one of those overachiever types? You could say that. Thought so. What was that supposed to mean? Hisamatsu-san nodded in understanding, downed his mug, and hopped to his feet. He pointed over at the bedroom door. The bed's that way. It's all yours. What about you? I'll sleep in the study. A grad student with his own private study? Classy. Still, I felt bad about stealing his bed. I'm the guest here. I should sleep in the study. After the hell you went through tonight, you deserve a peaceful night's rest, at least. But you look like you need it. Go on, get in bed. Evidently, I didn't get a say in the matter. Part of me felt guilty, but another part of me was massively relieved. And so I slept like a baby, tucked up in the bed of a man I'd only just met yesterday. The morning arrived without incident. I awoke to the sounds of activity in the apartment, and the gentle rays of sunlight streaming in through the curtains. I got out of bed, slid the door open, and finally remembered that I'd spent the night at Hisamatsu-san's place. Oh, good morning. Good morning. In stark contrast to my sleepy haze, Hisamatsu-san was briskly preparing breakfast. Go on, have a seat. Sleep well? Per his request, I took a seat at the table, and he set a cup of coffee down in front of me. He was practically waiting on me hand and foot. Make a good husband someday. Hisamatsu-san set a plate of toast down in front of me and laughed. Oh, would you marry me? I could do far worse. Oh god, I can't believe I'm even joking about that. Thankfully, Hisamatsu-san had walked into the study, so he might not have heard me. I yawned and took a sip of coffee. Just then, my cell phone rang. I dug it out of my purse. It was Shoko. I picked up instantly. Hello? Shoko? What was that yesterday about that question you asked me about the dude? Yuki-san, I gotta step out for a bit. Unfortunately, Hisamatsu-san called out to me right at the moment. I quickly gestured at him to hold on. Sis, where are you right now? Huh? Oh, I'm just, out and about. She didn't need to know exactly where I was. Besides, it wasn't technically a lie. So, what's up? I knew she'd see through it, but I had to try. Koichi gave me some contact info for someone at his company. Said he's already explained the situation. The number is... She rattled off a phone number, and I saved it in my address book. Thank you so much. You've been a huge help. Anyway, sorry to cut this short, but I've got an errand to run, so... No problem. Just be sure to introduce me to your boyfriend sometime. Busted at the finish line. No, wait, you've got the wrong idea. Does she? I could deny it until I was blue in the face, but there was no telling whether she'd actually believe it. Okay then, talk to you later. After we hung up, I stared down at my phone for a moment. So, I take it your phone call's over? The hesitation in his voice brought me back to my senses. Oh, sorry, what were you saying? I gotta swing by the school real fast. Just hang here for a bit, okay? Wait, but wouldn't you rather I left? Maybe it was a silly question at this point, considering I'd already spent the night here once. But he was still essentially an acquaintance at best. Nevertheless, Hisamatsu-san continued to pack up. Nah, no worries. Not like you're gonna rob me. Besides, aren't you too freaked to go back to your apartment alone? He sounded rather matter-of-fact about it, but it sounded more than a little flippant. With that, he waved goodbye and walked out the door, leaving me with my lingering reservations. The sound of the lock seemed to echo in my ears. There wasn't much left for me to do once I ate breakfast and washed my dishes. I returned to the living room, impressed that his kitchen was so well kept for a young bachelor. Okay, now what? I had a few options. But my time was likely best spent getting in contact with this Uchiyama person Shoko told me about. I got a pad of paper and a pen ready, pulled up the freshly created address book entry, and hit the call button. After a few rings, a muffled, masculine voice answered. Uchiyama speaking. How can I help you? Hi, this is Yuki Shoko's sister, Kae. I wasn't sure how to introduce myself, but he seemed to understand right away. Oh, right. From Light Publishing. I was told you have some information regarding an apartment. Right. I was told you know a lot about the rental properties in this area. You could say that. I camp out in problematic houses as something of a side job. Problematic? According to Uchiyama-san, as long as there was someone living in a given property, the landlord would be spared having to explain anything to a new tenant. That said, a very few people were interested in seeking out so-called problematic apartments to live in. So, in exchange for a temporary tenant, these property owners would let him write articles about their problematic spaces. Evidently, that was how Misty Publishing got material for its magazine. So, tell me about this apartment. Well, let's see. It's located in M-City, Maibara, in a complex called Chalet Romaine. Oh, the place with the infamous apartment 202. You know about it? Of all the places I expected this phone call to go, I never anticipated he'd name-drop that one. Desperate hope burgeoned in my chest. Burgeoned? I think it's burgeoned. In my chest as I awaited his answer. It's a well-known story in this business. That's the one where the tenant killed herself in the mountains, yeah? College girl? Yes, that's right. What kind of business did he mean exactly? I kept that little comment to myself, however. It's hard to get in there. I'm told they've got that dead girl's apartment locked up tight, and they do a lot of digging on anyone who tries to move into the 4 apartments that share walls with it. But yeah, I hear it gets pretty crazy there. Wait, 4? Even the ones above and below it? Okay, see, I had this question earlier. If the adjacent apartments are having problems because of this one apartment, then what about the top and the bottom? It doesn't make sense to me. Are they actually having problems? Yep, apparently some tenants recently vacated 203 too. Nearly got them to show us around inside, in fact. But then we lost contact with the writer assigned to the case. What? So Takahashi-san had been meaning to sell her spare key to Misty Publishing, of all places. Small world. So yeah, I'm afraid we might not have much information that could be of use to you. I see. Well, we still have the key, right? Will the key still work? Anyway, what were you wanting to ask? Jumping to conclusions much? Shouldn't you ask that before you decide whether you can help me? I took a deep breath and put a lid on my sarcastic retorts. Well, I want to find out what happened in 202. Out of curiosity, let me ask, how does this pertain to you exactly? I'm a new tenant in apartment 201. I'd be more than happy to interview you. Saw that one coming. What's going on in 201? I saw a hand. A hand? What did the hand look like? When? What happened? This is why everyone hates reporter types, I thought to myself. I wasn't a big fan myself. But for now, I needed to be patient. Now, hold on, sir. I'll tell you everything I know, but first, what can you tell me about 202? 202, you say? Well, you did hear that the CEO of the apartment's previous real estate agency offed himself? Yes, and his wife's in the hospital. Well, rumor has it the CEO kept a harem of women in that apartment. Oh, Jesus. In 202? The college girl wasn't part of it, though. But surely it couldn't have been a coincidence. The day she killed herself, a witness reported seeing the CEO's car in the area. He had an alibi, though. Where was it seen? Parked at the landlady's house. Supposedly, they're related. Huh. Landlady? I told you she's sus. I knew it. I knew it. Maybe she's not sus for the reason I thought, but she's sus. She's sus. You learn something new every day, I thought to myself. Oh, and supposedly the CEO's favorite hostess went missing about 6 months prior to that. Though rumor has it she just went back to the Philippines. I wasn't sure how much of his word I could trust. Still, I appreciated the new leads regardless. I asked him for the name of the bar the missing hostess had previously worked at, then gave him the rundown of all that had happened to me since I moved in. As I spoke, Uchiyama-san grew more and more excited. Any chance we could film there? I'm not the one to ask. I wasn't exactly protective of the apartment by any means, but I didn't feel comfortable letting strangers in there either. For now, we ended the call with a mutual agreement to get in touch if either of us discovered any new information. My leads were few, but at least I had something. After that, I decided to return Hisamatsu-san's kindness by tidying up his apartment while I waited for him to arrive. Nice of you. I'm back. You still alive in here? Sure enough, Hisamatsu-san returned to the apartment around noon. Yeah, obviously. Good. I knew you'd be safe here, but I couldn't help worrying. Maybe I need to unclench, I thought. And yet, at the same time, I appreciated his concern. What next, Yuki-san? Going back to your place? Sounds about right. My internet's getting hooked up today, so I'll need to be there for that. Plus, I still had some work to do. I needed to hurry up and finish the site update for Shoko's company. Want me to walk you to your door? Hisamatsu-san sounded a bit shy. After a moment of consideration, I nodded. That would be great. I wanted to believe I'd be fine during daylight hours. But as it turned out, my fear had taken up permanent residence here. I knew there was no point in putting on a tough act for Hisamatsu-san. Admittedly, it was a little silly to think of how much courage it took to walk down a single flight of stairs. Yet there I was, standing before door 201 like I was about to head into the belly of the beast. Okay, here I go. Right. Behind me, I could hear the tension in his voice. I slid the key into the lock and turned it, unlocking the door with a metallic click. I opened the door to find my apartment waiting for me, shrouded in dim tranquility. The beige curtains didn't seem to have much of an effect on this place. Why did it feel so stuffy in here? Was it just because the windows were shut, or was it something else? I flung the door open and stepped inside. Just then, I felt something touch my shoulder. Ah! Whoa, it's just me. I was so startled, I startled Hisamatsu-san in turn. I'd forgotten he was there. Should I go back to my place for now, or... It was clear that, as a man, he felt bad potentially intruding on my space. But I shook my head. Please stay with me. Just a little while longer. Wow, never had a lady say that to me before. I didn't mean it like that. I shot him a glare, and he raised his hands in defeat. Was he joking or not? It was hard to tell sometimes. Okay, will do. Thanks for having me, I guess. Sorry for the mess. Make yourself at home. I took my shoes off and walked inside. On my way to the living room, however, I stepped in something cold. Probably water. What's wrong? Could you turn on the light there by the front door? At my request, the hallway light flicked on. I looked down at the floor to find that I'd inadvertently stepped in a puddle of water. On the left side of the hallway was the bathroom, tub and toilet separated. On the right was a small room that I'd designated my office space. Last night I'd been such a flurry that I'd probably dripped water all over the place. And yet, something felt off. I started to crouch down to get a better look, then stopped. The puddle stretched from the bathroom to the office. Oh! But I never went into the office last night. These kinds of things, they're happening when no one is there. This could still be explained away as the landlady doing some fucky-wucky stuff. I feel like I need to make the statement that, believe it or not, I'm actually not a skeptic, but my first thought isn't usually, it's a ghost! I'll usually try to, like, explain it as something rational, and then when I can't, I'm like, okay, well, it might actually be a ghost now. You okay, Yuki-san? Frozen in place, I felt myself start to tremble. Just then, Isamatsu-san gently touched my hand, concerned. What is it? Isamatsu-san, could you do me a favor? What's that? This door on the right leads to my office. Can you check inside? Okay. Isamatsu-san slipped past me in the narrow hall, sending this man out to die. Then he paused for a moment. Evidently he'd stepped in the puddle too. He quickly checked the sole of his foot, then pushed open the door to the office. I heard the flick of the light switch. Then he fell still. Uh-oh. Is something in there? Hisamatsu-san grimaced. Uh-oh. Whatever he was looking at, he seemed to have trouble putting it into words. Is it another stain? Oh. Well, it's just kinda wet? What? The floor? Yeah, almost like someone dragged a mop through here. A mop? I peered into the room behind him. The office was about the size of a standard bedroom, furnished with a sofa set and a few bookcases. Between the sofa and bookcases were 2 long streaks of water stretching from the far wall to the door. Almost as though something had been dragged along the floor. What is that? Maybe the ghost felt bad, so it's like, I'll mop your study for you. As I began to tremble all over again, Isamatsu-san rushed into the bathroom, then returned with a towel. He tossed it to the floor and began to wipe up the water. It wasn't surprising he knew his way around, considering the layout of my apartment was identical to his. Once the water was all wiped up, he went and turned on the lights in the living room, all before I could even get a word in. Then he strode over to the windows and flung open the curtains. All at once, the apartment brightened up. For now, just go wash your face and calm down, alright? I'll be in the office. Yeah. Okay. To think I felt so unsafe in my own home. I splashed some water on my face, brushed my teeth, then headed to the bedroom to change clothes. I already had half a mind to leave and go somewhere else. I couldn't bear to stay here any longer, not even for just an hour. I pulled some clothes from the drawer and tossed them on the bed, and as I started to get changed, it occurred to me. This was only my 3rd day living here, and I hadn't slept in my own bed even once. The first night I slept on the sofa, and last night I slept in someone else's apartment upstairs. Would I ever be able to live here in peace? As I pulled my pants on, my gaze wandered over the walls and settled on a single point. What's that? What am I looking at? After everything I'd seen in Takahashi-san's apartment, after everything Hisamatsu-san had told me, somehow the stain on the wall just didn't seem right. Whatever. It's just a stain. Just a stain. Did I actually believe that? Or did I just want to believe that? Suppressing the icy terror that threatened to rear its head once more, I slid my arms through the sleeves of my jersey knit top. But just then, as if waiting for the exact moment I turned my attention away from the wall... It was almost as though someone was trying to make their presence known. Does Daigo hear this? I'm right here. Bam! No! Yuki-san? Hisamatsu-san heard my scream and dashed into the room. Nevertheless, the banging intensified. Well, we can say for certain it's probably not him. What's the banging all about? In response, Hisamatsu-san slammed the wall back. Was it you? Huh? Are you the thing that broke my sister? His fury echoed through the room. With one final bang, the noise stopped, leaving nothing but the sound of Hisamatsu-san's elevated breathing. Yeah, that's what you do. You just bang back and like, shut up! You're the noisiest of neighbors. If I suddenly went into my house one day, my room, my whatever, and there was like the stain with a face on it, I would just leave, you know? Actually, even better, go out and like buy a picture frame and just put a frame around the face, frame it, you know, let it, you know, let the ghost feel at home. Just be like, look at you, now you're a work of art. Like, thanks, I didn't have anything there, now I have something there, awesome. An indeterminate amount of time passed. Hisamatsu-san finally pulled his hand away from the wall and looked back at me. The moment he laid eyes on me, however, he quickly averted his gaze and bolted from the bedroom. I'll be in the office, so hurry up and put some clothes on, okay? That was the moment I realized I hadn't quite finished putting my top on. Ah! I let out an ugly shriek, pulled the shirt on over my head, and quickly left the room. You know, if you have like a random ghost, you know, beating on the wall of your apartment, I think the last thing you should worry about is, do I have on clothes or not? Like, if a ghost showed up in my house and I couldn't get them to leave and they were being hostile towards me, I would run away. I don't care if I'm bare-assed or not. I'm gonna run out of my house. It's not too unusual for me to be bare-assed, though, because I am a bear, and I do have a bare ass. That's the sound of everyone clicking away and unsubscribing from my channel right now. Seriously though, if your life is in danger, I think the last thing you need to worry about is whether you're wearing clothes or not. Just run. Or square up and fight the ghost naked. You can do it. I believe in you. They're not gonna expect it. They're not gonna expect you to suddenly square up and they're gonna be like, whoa, hey now, I was gonna be the one doing the frightening. I wasn't expecting you to, you know, put up your fist and start fist fighting me in the middle of a living room. I ain't doing that. Well, imagine you go to do that and the ghost is like, aight, and they also square up. It's like, you're about to have a fist fight with a ghost, and that's going to be an incredible story to tell people later in your life. Yep. One time, I fist fighted a ghost, and I won. The tension from earlier had eased somewhat, but at my core, I was still shook. I peered in through the crack in the office door to find Hisamatsu-san standing there, staring quietly at the floor. Hisamatsu-san? Are you okay? I'm fine. I totally didn't see your white bra or anything. It's just a bra. Sure you didn't. Despite my retort, silence fell between us once more. 10 seconds passed. Not that I was counting or anything. Then Hisamatsu-san sighed heavily. This place gives me the creeps. Yeah. I was hardly going to deny it. I'm surprised. I didn't think you were scared. Of course I was. Couldn't you tell? No, actually, but I decided to keep that part to myself. That's a no, judging from the look on your face. Yeah, no, not really. I guess I could see it. The vibe between us was a little awkward somehow. Then Hisamatsu-san walked up to me. You said you have to stay here for today for some reason, right? Yeah, I need to submit some files to a client. Is that the computer you're using? He shot a glance in the direction of the desktop PC I had set up in the living room, and I nodded. Why don't we just take it up to my place? Huh? I couldn't believe my ears. You want to move my computer into your apartment? Well, let's think about this for a sec. You really think you can stay here at night? I shook my head without a second thought. But all I really need to do is send the files, and I should be good to go. The way I see it... Hisamatsu-san slipped past me and walked into the living room. He put his hands on his hips and glared in the direction of the bedroom. I don't know what's lurking in 202, but whatever it is, it feels pretty rooted in there, you know? So as long as you're here, it'll keep lashing out. Something told me he was right. Whoever she was, evidently the depth of her grudge was fearsome enough to warrant attacks on brand new tenants at all hours of the day and night. Lashing out in 4 directions, too. I thought back on what Uchiyama-san had told me. Meanwhile, Hisamatsu-san looked at me dubiously. What do you mean? 202, 203, 302, and 102. Obviously I'm living in 201, but what about the rest? 302 is empty, now that you mention it. I don't know about 102. Oh, okay. I was very confused. I thought he lived in the apartment, like, right above it. Alright. For now, I'll borrow your internet to submit my files. Do you have some time later tonight? For a date? Sure, something like that. My casual response seemed to catch him off guard. Didn't expect you to play along. I figured I'd throw you a bone now and then. Alright, I'm game. Where to? You'll see. I powered on my computer and pulled up the half-finished files. Time to wrap up the rest of the site update. At least while I have a bodyguard on standby. Can I trouble you to stay here for about an hour or so, Daigo-kun? No problem. Whoa, hey, you called me Daigo. He looked at me in surprise, but I ignored it and focused on the work at hand. It always seems fair, considering you've seen me in my bra. Plus, I imagine I'll be needing your help going forward, too. Would you call me Kai? So that's your name. Huh. As I was busy typing, Daigo-kun suddenly leaned over my shoulder to look at the screen. You have a very pretty name, Kai-san. Eh? Sometimes he threatened to give me a heart attack worse than any vengeful spook. I smiled stiffly, willing my racing heart to settle in my chest. That evening, after the files were safely emailed, the two of us headed into town. We waited at a nearby bus stop, and took a bus to the next town over. On the way, I gave Daigo-kun a general overview of everything Uchiyama-san had told me. He folded his arms in contemplation. An affair with a hostess, huh? Maybe she was Yumihara-san's roommate, then. It's hard to say. According to Uchiyama-san, she may have gone back to the Philippines. And now we're going to check out the hostess club where she worked. Basically. And these sorts of places don't let single women inside, so... Ah, I gotcha. He looked so blatantly disappointed, I couldn't help but giggle. Tee-hee! Come on, you didn't actually think we were going on a date, did you? Well, no, but it kinda sucks being told point blank that I'm only good for my body. What a cutie. Smiling to myself, I gazed outside the window. We'd come pretty far into the central downtown area by now, and our stop was fast approaching. The bus turned onto another street, and the sunset's rays blindsided me. I reached up to pull the window shade down. Just then, the sun slipped behind a skyscraper, casting a shadow over the bus. Oh, there's a hand! Ah! I let out a tiny squeak. Kai-san? Daigo-kun called out in alarm behind me. Oh, he's sitting behind us, okay. It's nothing, I think I was just seeing things. You sure? Definitely sure. The hand I saw reflected on my shoulder in the window. It was just a trick of the shadows. No way in hell was I about to let that thing follow me everywhere. It's time to square up and fight this ghost in a Denny's parking lot. Are there Denny's in Japan? I don't know. Okay, well, there's actually a Denny's in Japan. Denny's.jp. What's the website look like? Ah! Well, you just learn something every day, don't you? So what I said is right. We need to fight this ghost in a Denny's parking lot. We can do this. I whipped the window shade down and sat back in my seat. Then I heard the bus driver announce our stop.